Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'm Muhammad Hijab, and this is another episode of Talk to Me, where we discuss contentious or controversial contemporary issues with our audience members and, of course, our panelists, and then we try and create some kind of fruitful discussion. Today we have some really esteemed panelists. Mr. Asif here, YouTube personality, the one and only Ali Dawa, our devil's advocate, which we'll come back to in a second, and Yusuf. Devil's advocate, what is your role in this show?
Yeah, so I'll be the devil's advocate, where I will try and, contest what the main discussion is to try and show the other argument to what people are saying.
Fantastic. We've got a really interesting show today, which is really about the hijab. The hijab, is it a fashion statement? Has it been made in the 21st century into a fashion statement? And before we begin, just quickly, when we say hijab here, we are talking specifically about what's referred to in the Quran as jilbab, or it's also referred to, let's just stick with jilbab. That's one of the contemporary, the Quranic terms. So that which covers the woman, just in case anyone has any vagaries as to what that actually means. So let's get started with that discussion. Let's see what Asif has to say, one of our panel members. What do you think? I mean, you've kind of studied abroad and you've come back here. Is there a cultural clash? Is there something that the Western world kind of exhibits in terms of the hijab that other parts of the world doesn't do?
So I believe that the hijab has become, in some respects, in particular, more in the West, something which is been sexualized or even kind of been brought into become like a fashion statement. And I feel that, just as an observation, I think it's really important just to point this out before going in further, that the way that we actually deal with this issue has to be done with a lot of wisdom, because it may be that a sister just started to wear hijab. She used to wear a lot of fashionable clothes and designer brands and all that kind of stuff. And she wants to break away from that and start wearing the hijab, and she's going to find it it's going to take a bit of time for her to wear the more Islamic correct hijab. So maybe we have to be careful in not overjudging some sisters, because it may be that they are just going through a particular phase where they will, inshallah ta'ala, come to the stage where they will wear the correct the hijab.
Okay, well, let's try and take this to the sisters, our sisters in the audience, because obviously this is a situation which particularly affects them. I mean, now there's been a growth of, let's say, YouTube, what you call hijabi tutorialists, who are putting forward videos of how to wear hijab in certain ways. What are your opinions on this? Is this a positive phenomenon? Is this a negative phenomenon? Has it affected you in a positive way? Has it affected you in a negative way? What are your opinions on that? Think about that for a second. We've got someone here in the front. Let's try and answer the question.
They're right in the front.
Just in the front there. Yeah. Go ahead.
So my opinion on this matter is that there have been a lot of YouTube personalities, as you said, and I would say that it's a commodification of the hijab. And the way that commodification is being done in the Western world, there is an element of sexualization that creeps into it.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it's come into, like the sexualization that you mentioned. It's an extension of the commodification that we see in the Western world. But I do see that there are some positives in this issue. Like, for example, Muslim sportswear. Because it's being commodified, people are seeing more commercial potential in it, which has resulted in Muslim sportswear, for example, being mainstreamed and more options for Muslim women. So there are good sides and bad sides, but it depends on what we as Muslims take from it, really.
Right, okay, sister wants to say something? Yep.
Yeah, I think it's really to do with the young sisters who want to wear hijab. They want to be part of the society, and maybe they don't really know exactly why they're wearing the hijab. Maybe because their friends are wearing, the mum told them, the dad, but they still want to be a part of the society. So that's why they're wearing hijab. So that is like they blend into the society.
Right, that's a good point. So what you're saying is that they want to kind of kind of amalgamate two cultures, sort of the
Yes.
parental heritage and the religion,
Yeah.
also with kind of like the Western culture. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
but at the
Yeah.
same time, they don't really understand why they're wearing the hijab. If you ask them
Yeah.
why you're wearing the hijab, they don't have a clear answer.
Which is a good point. Okay.
Yeah, and also can I just point out,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, as things has happened here in London,
Yeah.
everyone knows about it. Many of the ladies, the girls who are wearing the hijab have started wearing it differently now, just to not be seen by other people as, you know, different.
Okay, so to avoid ostracization and kind of alienation,
Yeah.
what women have done, in your opinion, is that they've kind of tried to amalgamate the two cultures.
Yeah.
Sister over there wants to say something. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, sorry, the one behind you. Sorry. We'll come to you next. Yep.
Sorry, I just want to go back to your point where you said that how does it impact
Yeah.
us, like the society, negatively and positively. I feel like on social media,
Yeah.
like there are loads of Islamic power couples, so I feel like that impacts the female side. I would say not. I would say negatively, because there are loads of Muslim females
Yeah.
who do like wear the hijab and stuff, but what I'm trying to say is they only do it for like the publicity and social media. If you get what I'm they're not actually doing it because of their faith and because of Allah and because they really truly want to, and because it's really
And how would you ascertain that? How would you make sure that how do you know their intention is what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, like you know how all these, like, I'm not obviously trying to pick on anyone, trying to say
No,
anything
go ahead.
bad
Yeah,
about
yeah.
anyone, but there are loads of famous Muslim makeup artists who
Right.
do wear hijab, but
Yes.
I feel like that's just become a really big thing in the 21st century,
Right.
which is they are impacting us in a good way, where
Yeah.
they are making loads of young girls wear a hijab, but I don't feel like they really know why they're wearing it. They don't really have a
Right.
purpose.
So what you're saying is that their act, like for example, what they're doing in terms of wearing makeup contradicts the very spirit and letter of the Islamic law, and therefore you couldn't trust that they're actually doing it for the sake of God or for the sake of their religion.
Yeah, and also I wanted to say,
Yeah.
I also wanted to say that when you do wear a hijab,
Yeah.
like how they are makeup artists and they're wearing hijabs, isn't wearing a hijab the whole purpose of it is covering yourself and
Yeah.
making sure that no one sees like
That's
the
a good point. So
beauty.
you're saying there
Exactly.
is that this wouldn't even be called hijab or jilbab or khimar or
Yeah,
any of these
exactly.
things anyways. So would you say that then they're using kind of the terminology to try and further their own interests? Is
yeah.
that what you're saying?
That's
Okay,
exactly what I'm
good,
trying
good
to
point. I've had real dominated sister side, which is good. We'll come back to you, and you do need to have more of a say in these things. But what we're going to do is we're going to have, I'm going to bring Ali, one of our panelists, back on his. You've done a couple of response videos on your YouTube channel to other YouTube channels to these kinds of phenomena. What is your take on this?
Well, from what you've said, you've quite vilified me. Actually, I didn't respond to them, but we do videos regarding like the hijab, you know,
Yeah.
even though one thing that's really important is that, I'll be honest, like me and my team, you know, we look up to sisters, you know, like in a way, the struggle they're going through, like the sister mentioned as well, especially at today's time, wearing the hijab or taking the efforts to wear the hijab. And we've got great respect for sisters because it's not easy. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I couldn't really imagine myself, like, you know, wearing that in the heat, and forget the heat in today's time, being attacked. So that's one thing that we try to encourage sisters. Now, one thing that the sister said in the back is that this hijabi tutorial, sisters who do this, now, they do good, and they do some kind of, maybe unintentionally, you know, they've got maybe good intentions, but, you know, it just comes across the wrong way. I was at university giving talk, and one sister came to me and said, brother, I'm planning on doing a hijab tutorial thing, and he said, can I be on camera? I said, look, that question you need to ask somebody that's knowledgeable, if you can be. However, you know, one advice that I would give you, sister, and this is really important for the sisters who are doing this hijab tutorial, is you need to acknowledge something for your viewers. Now, it's good that you are showing how to wear the hijab. For newcomers, reverts, those who want to wear the hijab, those who are struggling, it's good, okay. However, you need to distinguish, because you have a responsibility. One thing that's really important, and as a YouTuber, is something that we have something on our shoulders. We're like role models, sadly. You know, not that we're anything special, but we're role models. So we have this thing on our shoulders where on the day of judgment, these individuals who follow and watch our works could hold us accountable. So what I advised the sister was, look, sister, if you're going to go down that route, you need to understand something. You need to make something clear. You need to say, for example, let's say you're struggling, yeah? You wear the hijab, but, you know, maybe you wear tight jeans, etc. You doing that is good, but you need to acknowledge and say, brothers or sisters who are watching this, obviously brothers not going to watch it.
Well, hold on. You're saying this is good, but this goes against Islam. So
yes, yes. So I just want to clarify. So what would be is like saying, look, sisters, I'm going through a struggle. I'm going to teach you guys how to put the hijab on. However, what I'm wearing is not the hijab.
Okay.
So when you make that distinction, then you're making your viewers know that this is not the correct form of hijab.
So if this is a sin, why would you ask her to publicize it?
No. I'm just saying that. For example, this sister, she was dressed in a, you know, mashallah, she was correct. I said, sister, if you was to go down that route, because they have highs and lows. Sometimes sisters come and go for a struggle and they don't wear the jilbab. I said, if you're going to go down that route and do that, I said, look, doing it or not is another question. If you're going to do it, make something clear. Say, sisters, this is the correct form of hijab. What is it? Loose clothing, etc., etc. But I'm struggling, if you are, for example, that sisters who are doing the tutorials, this is not the hijab. Make that clear, because if you're not, what's going to happen is when you go out there, may Allah bless them, they're doing good work, so we assume the best in our brothers and sisters, but when you're doing that, people are watching and thinking, okay, you're dressed like that,
associating with Islam.
Yeah, in a tight clothing, and is it becoming sexualized? Yes, it is. Sadly, it is. And we understand the struggle, but that doesn't mean it justifies what's happening here.
Right. I want to ask, this is becoming a sisters-centered kind of session, but I guess this does affect the sisters more. I just want to ask the sisters one more question. I think they'd probably know more about this than potentially the brothers would. Hopefully the brothers would, actually, from an Islamic perspective. What is it exactly that these kind of tutorialists, and I know it's very difficult to generalize, but I'm ignorant to this. I mean, I don't actually watch any of these videos myself. I'm just asking out of ignorance. What do they actually do? I mean, what kind of things do we have as a typical kind of tutorial for the sisters? Let's see the sister. Sorry, one in the front. Sister in the front, because you've asked it before, haven't you? Or was it you? We'll come to you. We'll come to you afterwards. Yes, sorry. In the front. Yeah.
Basically, I think a lot of times it's just a makeup tutorial with the hijab as a prop. I think if people understand that there's two distinct identities for a Muslim woman, one of them is where she wears her hijab to distinguish herself from non-Muslims and say, this is me, I'm a Muslim, I'm proud. And then there's a Muslim woman who uses her hijab to sort of imbue piety. She wants to become more religious. She feels that wearing the hijab will help her follow specific mannerisms that will, that will help her with her deen. So I think it's very hard to attack this one and bring down this one to, elevate that one. But I do think that a lot of people do wear it as a form of identity. They are proud of the fact they're hijabi, not necessarily that they're modest, but that they are a hijabi. That is a new identity. So yeah, a lot of times the hijab is just
It's just a prop. Okay, is that you wanted to interject?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the main question, which was, is a hijab being sexualized?
Right.
And to put it on the other side of the argument, no, I don't think it is being sexualized. Definitely not in the Western society, when there's so much more, lewd acts and nakedness that are going out right now. To put a cloth onto a woman's head, I don't think it will be.
But isn't what she's describing here, kind of with the makeup and all this kind of thing, using the hijab as a prop, isn't that?
Yeah, but I think you could say that in regards to the makeup, but in regards to the actual headscarf, it's not in the realm of what the non-Muslims would say.
But is the hijab just a headscarf though? I mean, does it just, when we say hijab, I mean,
yes.
Once again, this is why I discussed in the beginning, we said when we say hijab, we're talking here about jilbab or khimar, yeah? Okay. So, is that really just a headscarf, or is it meant to cover more than just the head?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's better, of course, to cover the whole body as well as the head. But, as it was mentioned before, not every sister is on that same level. Right. So I think it's important for us to encourage whatever can be done from sisters from all,
so Ali wants to get
all
involved.
levels of Iman for them to be able to.
Go ahead, Ali.
So do you class, do you class a sister who's wearing the hijab and has really tight, that she's wearing leggings? Because you're putting the yardstick based on what non-Muslims, which they have their right to, that's whatever they want to wear. But you're comparing it with that. Is this how we compare what hijab is or not, or do we compare it with what Islam says? So to you, a sister who wears the hijab and has tight leggings, is that hijab or not?
Well, I said I don't think the hijab is becoming sexualized.
But I'm saying to you, would you define that as hijab or not?
No, I wouldn't say that a person wearing whatever whatever, whether it's leggings or anything, and then wearing a headscarf, I wouldn't pinpoint and say, okay, that person isn't wearing it or is not wearing it correctly. I don't want to.
So you're kind of just saying I'm not going to judge.
My main point and contention is that where there's so much lewd acts around out there, for a sister to put a hijab on their head and to go out on the street, that is, and I think, in itself, to be fair is a great big step.
I think they both
for females to
right. I think they both kind of read that way.
For Muslim sisters
Yusuf,
to do that.
Quickly, just to get everyone involved here. Yusuf, our fourth panel member who's been silent. Quick, tell us what your opinion is.
I've just been contemplating on what everyone's been saying. I think hijab signifies modesty. Now, modesty is not just the outer appearance. Now, one thing which you would find is that you may find that some sisters maybe might not wear the full hijab, the full hijab, as in, however, they have very good mannerisms and very good conduct of themselves. Right. And you may find on the other side that there are some sisters who cover everything, literally, but then what comes out of their mouth doesn't display Islamic morals, Islamic values. Okay, that's a profound point. So there has to be a thin line in the sense that the sisters who are covering themselves, as Brother Ali has mentioned, they have this sense of responsibility. They're portraying our mothers, the mothers of the believers, Ummahat al-Mu'mineen. So they have this sense of responsibility, but there has to, at the same time, those sisters who are modest and very modest, but might not wear the full sort of hijab, the sisters need to sort of take the good from that and sort of give da'wah towards that sort of side.
Okay. Go ahead, Ali.
Because if we have this mentality of, oh look, for example, I don't. This happens a lot. Oh, there's the sister that I saw in a niqab in a shisha bar. At least I don't do that. Like, for this mentality going, we're looking at the bad and comparing the bad, and then the sister in niqab might be like, yeah, I wear niqab, but I don't. So we shouldn't look at, for example, we should be the best. You know, why do we have to go and say she's doing this but I don't do this but I do this bad act? What about you just do both? 100%. Like, dress up modestly and akhlaq, manners. This is really important. This is something that we lack. We have sisters in niqab, full jilbab, in queues, using foul language. Aki, wallahi, you're looking at.
So we've got our brothers here raising their hands up really high, almost as if for the stars. But we're not going to go to them. Because this is kind of, to be honest with you, I don't expect you to know much about it. We might come back to you in a second, but we want to give sisters the priority here, if that's all right, guys. I'm sure you'll be okay with that. Sometimes equality is not justice. Let's see, the sister in the front.
I think what's happening,
just give it a second. Start again.
I think what's happening is before YouTube was a popular aspect, we need to remember that a lot of sisters were wearing hijab without necessarily abaya, and what's happening is in the Western world the standard of modesty has gone down. So even before with non-Muslims, they used to like, for example, if they were wearing leggings, the norm was to wear it with a long top, but that's changed. So now it's a case of sisters that just wear hijab, they're wearing the same things as, let's say, like westernized people do, and just the general standard of modesty has gone down.
Very good contribution.
And that happens with hijab.
Thank you very much for that. Now I'm going to have to try and be a little bit fair here. The brother in the back there with his hand up, screaming, wanting to... Go on.
There's a point I want to mention, because a lot of us are speaking about YouTube. It's not YouTube. The main problem is in the house. The parents. When the sisters, sorry, I'm not pointing at anyone here. If any sisters are making mistakes in wearing the right or the wrong hijab, it's the parents. When the sisters are wearing it, however, if they're wearing it incorrectly and they're going out,
was a disbeliever.
Because the main problem is the parents are dropping their guard.
Yeah, well, Noah, his son was a disbeliever.
Sorry?
Noah's son was a disbeliever. Sorry, yes. Farouk wants to say something.
I do. Yes. Seems like there's two discussions going on here, bruv, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, are we talking about hijab in the Islamic sense? Or are we talking about hijab as the Westerners understand it?
No, the Islamic sense.
So in the Islamic sense, okay, because as a person who's from a background of the West, to them a hijab is anyone who covers their hair. That's what they regard as hijab. Right. Has that been sexualized? Absolutely. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, I was reading a common newspaper online, and I was scrolling through the articles just seeing what nonsense they got against Muslims, right? And this particular article talks about the hijab, but not from a Muslimah, rather from a call girl, a'udhu billah, who sells to the Arabs who visit this country, whether they're Christian, Arab or whatever, but these Arabs visit the UK and she offers services to them dressed as A'udhu billah, a Muslim woman.
And she's not Muslim?
She's not a Muslim.
Right, okay.
But she dresses as such, and she said she has such a demand that her books are full until 6 months in advance. Wow. You have to book 6 months in advance to visit this woman. Now, the point I'm trying to make is she has sexualized the hijab. Sorry. And some Westerners
that's got nothing to do.
Sorry, Hamza.
Hold on.
And second of all, that's an exception to the norm. You can't come up from one example and then say, okay, yeah, that's
guys, calm down, guys. I know this is a very... Sorry, Hamza.
Yeah, sorry.
It's a contentious topic. Hamza has the right to interject. Go ahead, Hamza. Tell us.
Sorry, but that's an exception to the norm. Sorry.
Right.
You can't say the hijab is being sexualized because I've seen in one magazine from one person that wore hijab and then used it as some type of fetish or whatever it is. The main point that I'm trying to put across in regards to whether the hijab is being sexualized is that hijab in itself is not something within the realm for non-Muslims to see themselves as a fashion statement for it. Okay. So when Muslim sisters put it on, then you have to take into consideration that there is some sort of sincerity that they would want to actually get close to their Lord.
Right,
and this is a first step amongst many other steps for them to do that on their path to get closer to
Let's
Allah.
get some more sisters' opinions. That's a good point there. Thank you very much for the interjection. Let's see the sister in the middle there wants to say something. Yes, here. Wait one second, give her a second. Yep.
The point that the brother made is very true. If you look at the literature of the Orientalists, when they visited Algeria, when they were colonizing Algeria, they wrote about unveiling Algerian women. So there was a huge fetishization.
Like Frantz Fanon
and there were fantasies at that time, and there was no YouTube then. So they did have fantasies of unveiling these Oriental women. So I do believe that the hijab has been sexualized, but not by women and not by YouTube, but by men themselves.
Right, yeah. Now, Frantz Fanon has written extensively about that. That's quite good. In the back there's one more sister that wants to give her opinion.
When our brother made that point, about the lady who wore the hijab and she wasn't Muslim, that shows that the topic that the hijab is sexualized is too broad for us to say YouTuber wearing jeans, she's sexualized the hijab. No, I feel like the fact, like, there is a YouTuber that I watch quite often, and maybe the way she's worn the hijab has changed, but are we going to attack her? Yeah, she's wearing the hijab, but she's wearing jeans, she needs to change that. Okay, that is an issue, but what matters more, the fact that she's wearing the hijab or the fact that she's showing other non-Muslims what Islam is about at a time where we're being attacked for being Muslims? We need to show like the real meaning of Islam.
Sister there in the front. Wait 1 second, give her a second.
I feel that a lot of women are actually abusing and exploiting hijab because, for example, in the GCC countries, you will see that
in what
a lot
countries,
of GCC countries, Gulf countries, you'll see that a lot, like women from Ukraine or from Russia, they would be wearing the abba and they will be wearing the headscarf, and they would actually be abusing it and using it, to run their own nasty call girl like businesses, and this is something that I've actually seen that in my research. So I feel that a lot of women are actually abusing it in themselves actually, but otherwise there's an example that I saw in the everybody's heard of that, the controversial Noor Tagore, the Iranian journalist who wore the hijab on the Playboy magazine cover, and then she just basically gave like a whole hype to hijab being like modest dressing and everything. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll take one more from the brothers. We'll come to Ali Dawa in the front here. The brothers put his hand up patiently, so we will take his contribution. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think we live in a culture that like they don't want to assume the best, they want to assume the worst and use that to attack sisters and brothers. I'm not saying I know I have experience. I'm not saying I know what a sister goes through.
Right.
But the fact that there's a lot of families, I've seen this myself in my family sometimes, that someone tries to be practicing, they want to try to do properly, wear the hijab properly, or whatever have you. But then family starts attacking them, like, oh, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to? Why are you becoming more extreme?
Right.
So like. And that kind of pushes them to to conform to this sexualized idea of...
Ali.
Yeah, that's why I said I have a lot of respect for sisters. You know why? Because they've been attacked at home, be it YouTubers. Yeah, I'm not saying directly all of them. Be it out on the street. And another thing the sister said is brothers, men, how? And she said something really profound, and we have to be just. You get what I'm trying to say? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, speak the truth even if it's against yourself. Us as men, why do we contribute to this? How? Because when we go and start looking, sadly, this is the truth, when we don't look at our sisters, that it might be for marriage, and you're looking at other individuals who are dressed in a certain way, now how are the sisters feeling? Because in their head, they're thinking, you know what, I need to look this way, otherwise I'm not going to get married. This is a big phenomenon. And you'll have sisters saying, you know what, if I wear the hijab, I'm not going to get married. So we as men have played a big role in, like, we want it to be like, we want it to be sexualized. Well, like, you think about it, we want it to be sexualized and looking this way and that way. And then over here, we also sit and criticize when we need to fix ourselves as well. So it's a big factor to play.
So you're saying the onus is not just on the woman?
Yes, it's not just the parents. It's not. It's a whole factor. And I think, obviously, nobody wants to die alone. They want to be married. So I think what she said really, really made me think, because it's like, as brothers, as men, when we don't value that and we start looking in, no, I want you to dress up in that way or look that, then it's sad, but they fall into this and think, you know what can I do? And those who are strong, may Allah bless them and say, you know what, I'm firm. Like, Allah has chosen for me who I'm going to marry. Me looking like this or like that is not going to change. May Allah bless them as well and make everyone strong.
Asif, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really interesting discussion, but I do feel that one thing that has been left is that the concept of hijab is not purely for modesty reasons. I mean, this is something that is kind of like not been mentioned, but I feel that it has to be mentioned
in the Quran.
Because of its importance, and that is that we don't, women or even men have a form of hijab as well, which is quite different to the women's hijab. And the reason why we do it is not to necessarily better our character, although those are issues. The main reason is to please Allah Jalla wa Ala. So if we actually have that in mind, because people will say, well, hang on, this thing about comparing and so on and so forth, that, I know sisters who don't wear hijab and they're far more modest than the niqabi that I know and so on and so forth. So the overriding factor is not the fact that this is supposed to make you more modest and have better character and so on and so forth. But it's a commandment of Allah Jalla wa Ala, and He's the one who we're here to please.
Okay, that's a really good point. Let's see from the sisters. We'll come back to the sister in the middle. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, in this day and age, if a Muslim woman is strong in her faith and in Iman, and she's doing this for the sake of Allah, I think she should be proud of herself, and I think she will be the winner.
Okay, well, I think that's a very encouraging remark there in the front.
Coming back to the point that the brother said, there's so many different interpretations of hijab and what is proper hijab. I mean, of course, there's the Islamic definition, but people take it in different ways. I think that's where all these issues are coming out from. Is this sexualized? Is this commodified?
Right.
Is this right? Is this wrong?
So you're saying education is
I am saying that people are... It's a natural issue when you have an issue as contentious as hijab. Different people are taking it in different ways. So some people might say, like, wear it as a form of identity. Some people might do it to please their parents or to fit in with the culture. So there's different interpretations and different reasons of why people are wearing the hijab. So I think this kind of feeds into the bigger problem of it being sexualized or being seen in a different way than it was being intended to.
Right. Sister in the front. I know this is becoming a female-dominated session, but for good reason. Sorry, go ahead, sister.
I think there's the other issue that a lot of female liberation in this day and age is associated with empowerment and sexual liberation. And what happens is that does feed itself into the hijab and conceptions of what is a proper or more strong hijab. So a lot of women may think, okay, I'm empowered by the male gaze. If the male looks at me and he finds me attractive, I'm a very powerful person. I want to sustain my identity, keep my hijab, let people know I'm Muslim, and also still have that empowerment. So you have these two different systems colliding, and for a lot of Muslims who are religious, this seems like a contradiction, but it's just an extension of the commodification of beauty, sexualization of women that we see in the society.
Okay, really interesting point there in the back.
I just want to go back to Brother Ali's point on how Muslim women in the 21st century, well, I wouldn't say women, but like young teenage girls, they would look at what the men, like what the guy, like what the other Muslim. Wait, let me just. I'm so sorry.
That's
let me just rephrase that. Basically, so it all comes down back to social media again, and how some women perceive themselves. I mean,
so ideas of perception. Is it
perception?
Right,
So the way that they portray themselves, and then obviously there are Muslim girls who have, like, in their households who are like really religious and everything.
And that links into what she was saying.
Yeah, what she was saying. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Really interesting. The brother here, he wants to make another contribution.
So I understand like the sisters are saying, the brothers saying is that the YouTube or social media and everything, yes, it plays part. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ku anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. It all comes down to the family. Save yourself and your family from the hellfire. If our role models, our parents are doing it right, if our sisters are doing it right, our own family is doing it right, our grands in the family are good, strong, firm, and we're teaching our children, our daughters, our sisters the right thing, they wouldn't be going just behind the social media.
And this will be the last word because we've only got a minute left. Go ahead, sir.
I agree and disagree because the thing is, we can't blame the parents and say they're not doing right because that's like looking at Noah alayhi salam and saying 950 years, you wouldn't have shahadas, you done. No, because Aki, the effort has been put in. If the parents are putting the effort in and the children are not, we can't blame the parents in that way. It's important. Yes, they should do their job, but sadly in today's time, the youth look up to role models, YouTubers, whatever it may be. So they play a big role as well. As long as the parents do the job and they don't follow, we can't blame the parents because they've done their job.
Okay, well, that's a really, really interesting point, Ali. I'll let Yusuf say the last thing in 10 seconds. What do you want to say?
Basically, what I would say is that ultimately we're Muslims. You know, hijab is part of our identity. We literally need to hold on to these fundamental things that we have and let not such issues maybe divide us so that maybe we look down on such a sister or such a sister, but rather we should envisage our Ummahatul Mu'mineen as the role models and try and follow them in all aspects as well as the hijab.
Well, it's been a brilliant show with exceptional contributions from everybody, from the panelists and from the audience. Until next time, of course, this was me, Muhammad Hijab, and this is the show Talk to Me. Tune in for next time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.